Recently, Joanna Stern said it's about time Apple Intelligence notification summaries have been disabled for all news apps in iOS 18.3 Beta 3. Apple says it's working on an improvement and it's going to make them available in a future software update. Which just begs the question, is Apple's AI play living up to the hype, or is it leaving people disappointed? This video is brought to you by Brain.fm. It's focus music. I love it. It's linked below. We'll talk more about it later. If you don't know about this feature that's getting disabled here, if you haven't experienced it directly, Apple is having some trouble using its AI to summarize different sorts of notifications, emails, news, basically just inaccurate summaries, which is too bad because if you have somebody trying to communicate something important to you and that doesn't come through, or if something is not important but the summary makes it seem important, or in some cases, life and death, but it's not, those are problems, obviously. So that's something that needs to get fixed. A lot of people are saying you should ship that as a beta, but not as something that's just turned on, ready to go, and then yank it, because that doesn't look good. Now I want to cover Robert Scoble's response here, because I find it interesting, and you might find it interesting. He's responding to Joanna, and he says, Apple Unintelligence. All AIs actually start worse than a child and then improve. That's the way it works, but that's also why Apple is vulnerable. It's got customers, they're freaked out, and it can't just run science projects in public view, meaning you can't just experiment on your customers, or can you? He's saying actually maybe Elon does that sometimes. But this just kind of brings up, where is Apple at when it comes to intelligence? AI, Siri, Apple Intelligence. It's not that Apple isn't promoting intelligence features, artificial intelligence in its products. It is. I feel like the actual thing is people aren't impressed with what Apple's doing with AI. It feels very par for the course, run of the mill. It's not groundbreaking, and sometimes it doesn't work. In the case of these notifications, a lot of people are expressing disappointment in the Apple Intelligence rollout. And really what's happening here is Apple's reputation as being innovative and cutting edge is what's really on the line here. And Apple's customers, I think, are expecting something more groundbreaking from Apple. And a lot of people, they don't understand all the technical stuff, or maybe, you could call it political stuff, internal stuff, the structure of Apple inside, how things get approved and handled, and the silos. A lot of people don't understand that. They're just like, I want really awesome AI, where is it? And they're bypassing their iPhone, and they're just having to use apps, for their AI experience. It's a missed opportunity so far for Apple. There's a lot of comments. Somebody's like, what about their smart home apps? You get a lot of things where it's like, hey, 10 or more people at your front door, and that's not the case. People are saying at this point, Apple Intelligence is an oxymoron, or Apple should just disable Apple Intelligence across the board until a future update period. The whole rollout's been a disaster with silly quote-unquote features that are really gimmicks. Here's someone saying Apple should just leave it disabled. I mean, frankly, it's a pretty useless feature, and the risk is that it lies to you versus just showing you an actual headline. Again, you get a lot of people who are just pro-Apple no matter what Apple does, kind of got the blinders on, which I think in the past I may have fit into more of that category. My main opinion is like, if I'm in the Apple ecosystem as deep as I am at the moment, then I want the stuff to be as good as it can be. So I need to point out like, hey, this needs to improve. It needs to be better. I want it to be better because I want my Apple stuff to be as good as possible. So I think it's healthy to not put the blinders on. You do have people saying, maybe this is strategic. Maybe Apple, like they do sometimes, they don't need to be first to market. They want to be the best to market. But if that's the case, then you would focus on reliability over speed. But this is proof that we're not having that reliability. A lot of people are disappointed by the image generation. Feels cartoony, very kid-like, too many guardrails. So this quote-unquote start of a new era for Siri, that's how Apple puts it, is off to kind of a rough start. There's a survey by Loop Ventures that says only 34% of iPhone users feel that Apple's AI features are keeping pace with industry standards. You can read between the lines, right? Apple's very positive about it, but they're Apple, so you can't really take Apple's perspective on this thing. You gotta look out and see what other people are saying. You gotta look at your experience. So I can say I'm using a lot of AI in my daily experience on my Apple devices, but I'm not using Apple's AI. And that's the difference. And I think a lot of people are probably having a similar experience, to the extent that anyone out there is using AI, because a lot of people just have not checked into the AI space yet. But for the people that are, I think that really describes things. Like they're using AI, just not Apple's AI. So let me know, what's your take on Apple Intelligence, on these notifications, and this whole situation? Now, very quickly, let me mention our sponsor, Brain.fm. Focus music, it's perfect for deep work, being creative, learning. It can help you focus in as little as 5 minutes, and it's science-backed. As you can see here, it actually does produce real results. People love it. I love it. I use it all the time. So you should definitely grab your 30-day free trial using the link down in the description. You can go to brain.fm/dailytech, daily TEKK. That's brain.fm/dailytekk.